So a little biography on Mark Nepo. Mark Nepo was born in 1951 in Brooklyn, New York. He is best known for his New York Times bestseller, The Book of Awakening. That's this one. Many of you might have seen it. Vi brought it here today so you can take a look at it after the service if you'd like. He has published dozens of books and recorded 15 audio projects. Nepo has a doctorate in English and taught for 18 years at the State University of New York in Albany. He now lives in Kalamazoo, Michigan with his wife Susan, who is a potter. In his 30s, he was diagnosed with a rare form of lymphoma, a struggle which helped to form his philosophy of experiencing life fully, staying in relationship to an unknowable future. His most recent book, entitled The Fifth Season, about aging, was just released last month. Nepo has dedicated his life to exploring inner transformation, relationships, and the power of presence. Beloved as a poet, teacher, and a storyteller, Mark has been called one of the finest spiritual guides of our time, a consummate storyteller, and an eloquent spiritual teacher. And now I'd like to invite my friends up to talk about their experiences with Mark Nepo's work, starting with Sue Curtis, please.
What do you want to bet this is too high? Good morning. Hear me okay with it here? Okay. I'm Sue Curtis. And I wanted to participate in this service this morning because I've been acquainted with Mark Nepo and his work for a very long time, more than 20 years. Before Mark Nepo was discovered by Oprah and made very famous. I remember a friend telling me about a workshop that she had been to with this wonderful new young author named Mark Nepo, and she couldn't say enough nice things about him, so I began reading his work way back then. He's turned out to be a real find. Mark Nepo describes his own writing style as that of listening with your heart and taking notes. Indeed, the thing that appeals to me most about Nepo's work is the shift of consciousness from being in my head. I spend a lot of time there, I'm happy there, where I try to figure things out through analysis and logic, to being in my heart, where it is possible to simply allow, and from that space to know my whole being and not just from my head. Over time, I have learned to trust Mark Nepo. Every time I pick up his writing, I have the feeling of meeting up with an old friend. First, there's that delicious rush of pleasure at meeting again, followed by the deep conversation at heart level. I do have a favorite Mark Nepo quote, which is, "There are no wrong turns, only unexpected paths." I'll repeat that. There are no wrong turns, only unexpected paths. As a dedicated overthinker, my brain loves to puzzle over the what-ifs of life. What if I had gone to school somewhere else, married a different person, made different decisions that shaped my life in a completely different way? How would that have made things different? And sometimes I wonder if the path chosen, or the path not chosen, was a mistake. I was raised in a mostly Irish family, and we were very good at pointing out our mistakes to each other. That makes it very easy for me to question decisions. At those times, I think again of my favorite quote, "There are no wrong paths, only wrong turns, only unexpected paths." How does this simple sentence transform my understanding of life? Well, first of all, it is a given that life will take turns that you didn't plan for and can't control. Where did I ever get the idea I was in charge of anything anyway? So looking at life through the perspective of unexpected paths raises the possibility of adventure and surprise. Shifting the mindset from that of failure to that of opportunity becomes energizing, leading to learning and growth. Nepo's writing changes focus to notions of resilience and adaptation. Now that is really exciting. I try nowadays in my daily practice to think of life experiences as blessings or challenges rather than labeling them good or bad. Blessings are easy to figure out. We feel warm and fuzzy and, well, blessed when everything turns out the way we'd like it to. Gratitude is a wonderful attitude with which to greet life. But what about when the blessing doesn't feel so blessed? Turning event, that is when it's called a challenge. And the challenge is how to turn that not so blessed event into a blessing, or for the time being at least, to accept it as the possibility of a gift. When I look back at my life from my present perspective, I realize that it is the challenges, the things that made me so mad, so sad, or so discouraged, that have become my greatest teachers. Those experiences have provided the opportunities to explore life in new or different ways, the opportunity to grow and look through a wider lens. And thanks to Mark Nepo, I now understand that although I don't have control over everything that life hands me, I do have absolute control over the way I respond to what life hands me. There really are no mistakes or wrong turns, just unexpected paths. It reminds me of a tapestry that, when viewed up close and from the wrong side, is a hodgepodge of twisted knots in different lengths and colors, but when viewed with distance and proper perspective, reveal the beauty of a great work of art. And what is life if not a great work of art? Thank you, Mark Nepo, for just one different way of viewing life with all its blessings and challenges.
Thank you very much, Sue. Vi, you're up next.
Mark Nepo is a master of spirituality. Looking back at his insights today, I found them even more rich than when I was first exposed to them. It was truly a gift that Nico asked, as to look back at the insights we had originally made when we read the book, The Endless Practice. The idea that despite all of the difficulties we may experience in life, that in life itself, there is always things that are uplifting. And I loved that word, that we can always be lifted up no matter what is occurring. It doesn't matter what's around us. So that for me was a seminal truth. Despite everything that's going on in the world in which we're living today, when we are on the brink of war and there are tornadoes and all kinds of things that are happening with climate, we can still be lifted up. I value the definition of spirituality as the process of listening for and living into one's soul's place in the universe. We all have a particular place. And if we have some quiet time and are open to it, we will discover that place. We need to be patient with understanding. We need to slow down enough to walk into the next opportunity. So I brought two things that I have in my house. I have the turtle that is on my bed, that is a constant reminder as I get into bed, slow down, you move too fast. And when I was traveling to Virginia last year, we stopped into a little gift store, and they had this turtle that's, it can be something to put your coffee on, but I have a little kind of altar in my living room, and I have him there so that anytime I'm making phone calls or doing workshops or anything on my couch, I can look at my turtle and slow down. If I open myself up and have a space of emptiness, then there is room for courage in my life. Sometimes we meet a dead end and must begin over again. I have begun anew, and I am trying to work hard at wakefulness, even though there is a weariness within me at times. He talks about that life is messy and unpredictable. But at the same time, he offers that we can be curious and experience a sense of wonder at what is going on. Mark tells us we are one in this world. And I was thinking of that song that we sing, I think it's from Sibelius, that we are one in the spirit. And we have only to love being here. We must be able to look beyond the glare of light in the world and see the veil of darkness. So as we accept that, we will notice that the dark is often coming from within ourselves. To go back to the world is full of liveliness. He quotes Jung as sharing, "We need to make darkness conscious." He goes on to say, as we lean into the extremes, they start to fade away. When we water the light within our heart, it will sprout and grow, which is such a lovely thing at this time of year when all of nature is opening up and coming alive. We need each other to remember the bare value of living every day, and we take turns teetering at the edge. Sometimes something in your life is extremely difficult, and I might be the one that is feeling caring for you, and other souls will help you from jumping. We can take each other back from the edge This is the most simple and enduring truth within community, that we are there to help one another. We are there to encourage one another. And he says that this goes on for our entire lives, that there are always people that are available for us. Trying to bring an end to things that have no end, rather than develop the inner skills to manage endless currents, is what Nepo suggests is available to us. So I encourage you all to read The Endless Practice. I got a new copy from Amazon, but when I was looking for something else the other day, I came upon my own copy, and it was all underlined, and there were notes all up in the margin, and it was so much fun to look at the richness that I found then, as when I was actually doing the workshop. So I thank Nicola for doing the workshop when she did, and giving us a book that can be useful over a lifetime.
It's so interesting listening to all these stories, because everybody has a really different experience of Mark Nepo. Up next, we have Sandy Smiley. She will talk about her experiences with Mark Nepo. And if somebody could pass me the collection plate, I'm not sure where it went. Okay, all right, thanks.
This is the book, The Endless Practice, which we did the book study for many years ago. And then a companion to the Book of Awakening, or a Book of Awakening, I think it was. This is a yearly, daily meditation book, which is wonderful. So I was very happy when I heard that Nicola was going to finding the bigger print. Was going to do the talk about Mark Nepo. I remembered how impressed I had been and inspired when we had the book sharing, but naturally, like everything else, I didn't bother to follow up and put any of that into practice, which is the whole point of doing it. So here we are many years later, and I'm feeling really unsettled and agitated because of all the chaos and the anger and the cruelty going on in the world, and a practice would really be beneficial, and I know I need to get back to that, so I'm searching, and this seemed, let me go back and give him another try, and really resonated with me. So here are a few of the wisdoms that I got. He talks about how we all have to manage suffering, especially the unnecessary suffering in the world, which everything that's going on in this world seems unnecessary. But it doesn't mean we have to approach it with resignation or acceptance of the violence. Rather, he says, quote, "The fully engaged heart is the antibody for the infection of violence. As our heart breaks with compassion, it strengthens itself and all of humanity," end quote. But how do we continue to show up and meet that experience of suffering with compassion? This is where I was. I'm always struggling with how to rein in my own negativity and my own anger at all this suffering. So instead of meeting it with compassion and maybe helping, I bring extra negativity to the mix, and I know that's not helpful. So I was interested in what I would find. He reminds us that each day we are asked to be a conduit of an open heart to the things that are forming while bearing witness to the things that are falling apart. That paradox. And that's all happening both within us and around us, all simultaneously. That's a lot. That's a lot. No wonder we're all stressed. So he reminds us to lean into our emotions, not to back away from them, not to hide from them, to sit with them, to listen to what they tell us. Otherwise, we run the risk of having them remain unhealed and unseen as a wound until that erupts. He writes of living kindly and reminds us that the heart is a muscle and must be exercised. So whether we walk it, stretch it, reach out with it, kindness is a continual necessity, like breathing. If we don't do it, quote, we risk going blue when we withhold what matters, end quote. So he speaks of he presents 6 different practices, and Vi alluded to a couple of them. I found several have been helpful now in the last couple of weeks to focus my energy in more calm and mindful ways. And that's a tall order for me. The practice of uncertainty is patience. Nepo writes that the gift of patience opens when the body, mind, and heart slow enough to move in unison. And there's our turtle. And he suggests using music, breathing in silence, walking or yoga as just a few practices that help you get in sync. The usual recommendations I know, but somehow they sounded different to me this way. And so I've been inspired to actually put in the 5 minutes of silent meditation in the morning and to do a walk around my complex, my housing complex, as a slow meditative walk instead of the race walking 6 laps of, now that's my cardio. So both have a place in my life, and I'm trying to remember that. The practice of the practice of courage is doing small things with love. A reminder that any choice that comes from kindness, especially in the face of challenge or uncertainty, builds our strength to act bravely in the face of resistance and adversity. I tend to take the small things I might do for granted rather than see them as practice or training for tackling the tough situation later on down the road with love and compassion instead of anger and craziness. I have started silently offering a prayer for compassion to enter the hearts and minds of our country's leaders each time I do a standout. I find that settles my energy no matter what's going on around me, what's being shouted, what response we're getting. I'm able to stay in a place where I'm visualizing and using my energy to visualize what I want to see happen, not staying in that it's hopeless, this is what's happening right now. So my signs still say the cold hard truth, but the energy I bring to it I think makes a difference. I know it makes a difference for me. The practice of connection is holding and listening when we feel disconnected. This is about balancing our inner and outer attention. And anybody that knows me knows that's a biggie. I am working to hold silence as a welcome companion. I am working to be present in a more mindful way when holding things, because lately I seem to drop everything. And finally, the practice of planting our oar. Exploration, mastery, and abandonment. Nepo reminded me that we are most alive when we are full of wonder and curiosity, exploring and learning. And this is the one that's touched me the most. I have never felt very creative, and I cringe when asked in some workshops to draw something. I'm just paralyzed. I can't do anything. So this practice really inspired me to lean into my discomfort. And my friend and I have now established art play dates. I am exploring watercolors and simple art kits, and I know it's all beginner stuff, but it's a start, and it is unexpectedly relaxing and helps focus my mind. So I really do get where all you artists come from now. And I want to read one other quote at the end. Vi talked about the oneness of life, and he says, he talks of the one universal life. We're all part of one life of humanity. And so he says, we're all living one life that we each carry as far as we can. And love is the touch, the handoff that rallies that one life into the next carrier. And I just, every time I say it, it gives me goosebumps that we all have our one life and we're doing our one life, but we're handing it off in our own way through our experiences to one another. And I love that. This was just the right time for the endless practice to revisit my life, and I am grateful for the inspiration it brought, and I'm grateful for Nicola for bringing it back to our attention.
I love the sound of those art play dates. I'd like to do that. Oh. I'm a real butterfingers this morning, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to share my experience, and I didn't look at the endless practice when I wrote my little blurb for you this morning. I looked at a couple of different books, including the Book of Awakening that people have been talking about. And there was a question that I found in another of his books, which was, okay. It said, in conversation with a friend, begin to tell the history of your journey in taking off all your coverings in order to become your true self. Where are you now in this lifelong process? And as I started to look at that question and the things that I had underlined in the Book of Awakening, this kind of came together to talk about this morning. So I grew up in a dysfunctional family in which my sister was the scapegoat and I was the golden child. I was genuinely vibrant, happy, and cheery, and my almost white hair glimmered in the sunshine. I was cast to play the North Star in the school Christmas pageant when I was about 6 or 7. I wore a white dress and carried a tinfoil wrapped cardboard star, and I looked like an angel. My mother was very attached to me being so luminous. In my soul, I couldn't let her steal my happiness and make it about her, to take this really authentic thing I owned and used it for her own needs. In order to stay safe when my sister was disowned for not measuring up to my mother's standards, I gave her pathological perfectionism and the facade of happiness, which she liked to brag to people about. But my real bright candle was brought safely inside of myself and hidden away until I couldn't even find it myself anymore. I had become a perfectionist without feelings. I only had thoughts. Then I went away to college, where I didn't have to appease my mother anymore with any happiness or perfection, and I fell into a dark, dark life with some very serious addiction and self-destructive behaviors, a mood disorder, multitudes of psychiatric hospitalizations, bitter shame cycles, and abject failure. This went on for decades. I got a bit better sometimes, and sometimes a lot better, and had good times in between the crises. But for many years at one stretch, my identity really revolved around my mental illness. What happened to my vibrancy and cheeriness through these years? Was it all gone? Or was it still hidden deep inside me? In around 2008, I joined a UU church and things started to change little by little. I joined a personal growth ministry group of some kind with the minister, and she introduced us to Mark Nepo. Nepo writes in the Book of Awakening that being who I am, not hiding any of myself, it is a necessary threshold that I must meet, or my life will not evolve. Through this therapeutic group, I was able to eventually identify the fact that I was hiding a huge portion of myself, not only from the world, but also from myself. We talked one time about the dark sides that we keep hidden, and I mentioned to the group that my dark side was always on display because I was always in crisis. And they helped me realize that my light side actually is my dark side. It is the vibrant and cheery piece of me that I was afraid to have people see because I was worried that they would either reject me, hurt me, or take advantage of me. Over the next 10 years, I went through a kind of birthing process. In the first meditation of Nepo's I was introduced to, he talks about carrying paint and too many tools in his hands and arms and trying to open the door to his house. He fumbled and dropped the tools and spilled the paint. He writes, "It's such a simple thing, but in the moment of ego, we refuse to put down what we carry in order to open the door. We cannot hold on to the things and enter. We must put down what we carry, open the door, and then take up only what we need to bring inside." And I would like to add that we must also discern which of the things specifically we must bring inside. We perhaps do not need it all. Through a slow process, I started putting stuff down and trying to get through the door to happiness. This meant finding parts of myself that could be functional, and especially pieces of myself that could have conversations without talking about my mental illness. It meant also reclaiming the parts of me that could be truly, authentically happy and could share genuine joy and cheer with others. I have not been able to reject the part of myself that has a serious mental illness, nor would I ever want to. It is there, and I am not even choosing to hide it. It seems that every 7 or 8 years or so, I have to do great battle with it. But it is far from being the biggest piece of who I am today. I have examined my life's two biggest pieces of ego, the teenage perfectionist and the wounded self, and I have found appropriately sized containers for them and allowed more of my authenticity and true nature to shine through. This is the part of me that is vibrant and cheery and loves to connect, although that may seem a bit odd because I'm an introvert. In the Book of Awakening, Nepo writes, "All spiritual warriors have a broken heart, because it is only through the break that the wonder and mysteries of life can enter in." So what does it mean to be a spiritual warrior? It is far from being a soldier, but more the sincerity with which a soul faces itself in a daily way. It is this courage to be authentic that keeps us strong enough to withstand the heartbreak through which enlightenment can occur. Now, honestly, I don't think I'll be attaining enlightenment for a few more years, if not lifetimes. But I do show up as a spiritual warrior every day, and this is in part because Mark Nepo has taught me how. Hold on for 1 second. I'm going to check my time. Okay. We don't really have chance for this experiential exercise, but it is the question that I posed earlier when I was talking about how I came to write my piece, and I have it on a piece of paper if anyone wants to take a look at it later. I also have a bibliography, and I'll put this with Vi's book if anyone wants to take a look at that after the service too. When do I sing This Little Light of Mine?
At the very end.
At the very end? Okay. All right. So I'm just going to do a closing. I'm going to read you now Mark Nepo's poem, The Way Under the Way. Like light in the sun, spilling out of the sun, the spirit within beams its way through all our cracks, till our most treasured walls come down. The coming down of those walls is the blessing we crave and resist. The coming down of those walls, so the light of the soul, like the light of the sun, can help the world grow. This is the call of calls. And we're now going to extinguish our chalice. With these thoughts about how we share our light, we now extinguish our chalice. That's good. I didn't set anything on fire today. All right, so now we're going to turn off the streaming and share joys and